What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? How you doing? Got a little bit of a different lighting. Was actually going to play around with it some more, but I got lazy and I was like, I just got to shoot this video. So today we're going to be talking about Tess Holliday, which I haven't talked about her in quite some time. I made a video about her in 2018. She was on the cover of Cosmopolitan, Cosmo, and it was all about fat acceptance and, the fat activist. And I haven't thought about her since then, or really, I remember at some point, she actually started to work out just a little bit. And I was like, oh, maybe she's finally being truthful that she's not okay with her being a land whale. And she actually does want to get in shape. Because rest assured, all of those fat activists that are like planets that say they're okay with it, if they could wake up jacked, with just a snap of a finger, of course they would do it. So at the end of the day, it's mostly BS. But okay, why we're going to talk about Tess Holliday is because she is saying the most egregious stuff. She's claiming that she's anorexic. And it's pretty hilarious because, you just take one look at her and you can tell that, like, come on, let's be real here. But yeah, she says she's anorexic and she's in recovery. That's her claim, and I couldn't believe when it was shown to me. I was like, "Oh, well, that's that's hilarious, but it's also pretty upsetting because, we've kind of went through this gamut of these crazy people snatching up whatever type of mental illness they can to peacock, and rest assured, this is definitely this. Now, let's take a look at her tweet that she put out to announce this. I'm anorexic and in recovery. I'm not ashamed to say it out loud anymore. I'm the result of a culture that celebrates thinness and equates that to worth, but I get to write my own narrative now. I'm finally able to care for a body that I've punished my entire life. I am finally free. I feel like Vincent in Pulp Fiction, because you just read it and you're like, really, bitch? Not the, but you're fat, how are you anorexic comments. Y'all don't know how science and body works, huh? My technical diagnosis is anorexia nervosa, and yes, I'm still not ashamed. I'm too damn happy for y'all even to come close to dimming my shine. When you see very skinny, very malnourished people, you think, oh, this person might be anorexic. You don't see land whales and think this person may be anorexic. I would understand if she lost quite a bit of weight and she's terrified of ballooning up to the weight that she's been at for a long time. But that's not even the case. You look at her, I'm looking at her on the Cosmo cover, from 2018, and you look at her now, and to be honest, this is just me being honest, she looks fatter to me. Now, one of the telltale signs of somebody with anorexia, from my experience, people that I know, is that they absolutely despise their body. Even though they're bone thin, they think they're just whales. They think they look like Tess Holliday, and they hate showing off their bodies. They don't want to show off their bodies. They hate their bodies. They don't like anything about it. That's why they're anorexic. And just to show that Tess Holliday can't be anorexic is that she's not like that at all on Instagram. If you go on Instagram, you see her posing and all this stuff, wearing all the scantily clad stuff, just being very risque and lewd. And I'm telling you, man, anorexic people that are genuinely anorexic, they ain't gonna be doing that shit. I've never seen that before. And the thing is, you never will. If you see someone who's just really flaunting their body, I don't think you can diagnose them with anorexia or some type of body dysmorphia. This is for every fat kid that never got to eat without being made aware of, reprimanded, and okay, I need to put some Starship Troopers music over this. This is for every fat kid that never got to eat without being made aware of, reprimanded, and shamed for every bite. To every person that got laughed and humiliated for dancing, exercising, daring to love or exist. Like, oh my gosh, shut the fuck, what are you talking about? There is so many slides of this. There's so many of them. It just keeps going. And then if you go to the very end, it says something very interesting. It's an interesting tweet. If you have an eating disorder but have never been diagnosed, your story matters. If you have an eating disorder but no one in your life knows of it, your story matters. If you have an eating disorder but are not being clinically supported, your story matters. You matter. Now, it's very telling that she posted this. Why? Because I'm sure she went to a specialist and they told her to get the hell out of here. Like, you're hilarious for thinking you're anorexic. So then she was frustrated and then just came to the internet probably the same day after her doctor told her to piss off and was saying, I'm anorexic and I'm in recovery. And I'm like, what are you talking about, dude? No, you're not. This is really upsetting. This is really offensive probably to a lot of people. And we're not done yet, folks. She actually went on Good Morning America to discuss this. Now, I haven't even watched it yet. The link was sent to me and I'm like, oh, well, looks like a lot of us are going to watch this together.
Supermodel Tess Holliday revealing her struggle with anorexia. The mother of two saying she was recently diagnosed by a psychologist, but has ultimately been struggling with disordered eating most of her life.
I do not believe her in any way, shape, or form that she was clinically diagnosed. I don't believe her. I really don't, because if you just look at the type of stuff that she's doing, you would think, like, how could you possibly diagnose her with anorexia? There's other things that you can say. Yeah, she can have eating disorders, obviously. She can have body dysmorphia, obviously. I have a form of body dysmorphia, but I would never say that I'm anorexic. Look at me.
I always thought that I overate.
No shit.
I've had a lot of messages from folks that are anorexic that are livid and angry because they feel like I'm lying. I am plus size, but advocating for diversity in larger bodies. And so I think for people hearing me say I'm anorexic was really jarring.
She's not saying anything. It just sounds like so far she's just been wrongfully diagnosed. I was like, oh, maybe there's gonna be an explanation. Maybe there's gonna be an explanation why she could possibly be anorexic. You know, because they keep saying eating disorders. I'm like, there's a lot of eating disorders. You might have one of them. But anorexia is not one of those eating disorders that I would like to apply, because you obviously are not afraid of gaining weight. You're massive. You are planetary. None of that says anorexia, because you would put your plate down. And it seems like you just, like, what? Intermittent fasting? You're like, oh my God, I'm anorexic now. Like, get out of here.
I understand that people look at me and I don't fit what we have seen presented as, you know, the diagnosis for anorexia. But then for me, that tells me that there's a larger problem, which I've been actually saying for years, is that we have a lack of diversity and representation in the world.
What a colossal waste of time. No, genuinely, that was nothing. There was no information there. She didn't explain why she thinks she has anorexia. I know in some of her tweets she was talking about, and some stuff on Instagram, saying little things here about how she would eat. And I'm like, dude, you were just trying to diet and you sucked at it. And now you think you have anorexia or something. This is crazy. She's like talking about body positivity and all this shit. And I'm like, it just doesn't add up, man. It doesn't add up at all, dude. That's crazy. I totally understand why people that are genuinely anorexic are really pissed. Now, I'm not a doctor, obviously, but it seems pretty obvious to me that she has some sort of mental health issue. Or issues, right? For her to be saying stuff like this, it's pretty crazy. And it's pretty sad. You know, like, I make some jokes, I laugh at her a little bit, but at the end of the day, when you really think about it, you're like, wow, this really huge person is so desperate for attention, so desperate for, like, anything to rationalize what she's doing, that she says, oh, I'm anorexic. And then she's recovering. And what I think is happening here is that she got tempted to lose weight. She was desperately like, I need to lose weight. I don't want to be fat anymore. And then now she's doing mental gymnastics and saying, wait a minute, I was doing intermittent fasting, I was dieting, and this is me being anorexic. And now I'm in recovery by eating tons of cake. And now I'm going to be as fat and plump as I've always been. And now I'm happy because I just don't care about being healthy. That's my take. Could be totally different, but I'm assuming that's what's going on. Sucks that she's doing all this, but when you have a lot of followers and your head's not screwed on straight, this is what we get. You know? And as somebody who does struggle with body dysmorphia, like I mentioned a little bit, it is pretty annoying to see this stuff, nonetheless. And to anybody that has anorexia, yo, sorry, hey. I can only imagine how pissed off you are at this. And, hopefully this broad just comes to her senses, So your struggles won't be overshadowed by this, this planetary mass.